On October 9, 2008, Carol and I flew out from Gatwick on EasyJet to Marrakesh, Morocco. Yes indeed, just like Webster's dictionary, we were Morocco bound. We stayed in a small family-run riad called the Riad Musharabia, which sits in the depths of an alleyway called Derb l'Hotel in the old part of Marrakesh. Carol reckons our riad is actually two houses knocked into one because it has two central courtyards. It's beautifully decorated with old holiday posters of the Come to Marrakesh type, not unlike the early 20th century British Railways posters. There's a star-shaped jacuzzi in the centre of one courtyard, fringed with palms and cacti, while the other one is built around a swimming pool. In this second courtyard there's also a baby grand piano in one corner and a number of unusual artefacts, very 1920s or 1930s maybe. Our riad had a lovely roof terrace on which one could be serenaded by pigeons. At about 4:15 in the afternoon, there was not a breath of wind. The day was warm and calm, and the streets of Marrakesh down below bustled with people, animals, bicycles and motorbikes. Getting lost in old Marrakesh is a kind of inevitable rite of passage for tourists. But despite the complete chaos all around, the constant bustle of people, the dark narrow alleyways, it still feels safer than your average back street in London. Policemen are few and far between. Late in the morning of our first full day in Marrakesh, we headed for the market square. We noticed how the shops seemed to be organised into areas. You would pass 5 or 6 sewing shops, then a handful of patisseries, followed by several electrical stores. On our second day in Marrakesh, we strolled towards the market square in search of a calèche, which is a horse and buggy. The trip took us round the outside of the city walls, which helped us get our bearings a little better. We had a brief glimpse of some horrific-looking slums outside the walls, then drove on to the Jewish quarter where our calèche driver encouraged us to hop out while he gave the horses a break. The streets through which we passed, as Carol remarked, were not unlike frontier town streets in the Wild West, with dozens of different types of businesses all going on together. It was amazing, with men working at sewing machines or spot welding wrought iron frames or selling cigarettes one at a time or mending bicycles. It was utterly unlike anything we'd encountered before, even in the remote parts of Mexico back in the early 80s. Marrakesh is another world. On another calèche ride, our driver suggested that perhaps we'd like to have a look in the herbalist shop on the corner. We twigged that our driver was probably getting a rake-off from the herbalist for every customer he delivered.
Have you got enough to pay the yes, still?
How much is that going to be?
300,
I think so.
We resisted the offers of aphrodisiacs and cures for diabetes. Still, just like the rug-selling emporium we'd been in before, the herboristerie Palais El Badia was a great experience, well worth the exorbitant prices we were charged for saffron and other delight. The market square is astounding, a riot of noise and a kaleidoscope of colours combined into a seething melee of humanity, all of them out to screw a few dirhams out of rich foreigners. It's the kind of place where even the blind beggars can see tourists coming a mile off. We drifted from snake charmers to cross-dressing belly dancers via weirdly costumed men with bells, sort of local pearly kings I assume, palm readers, shell readers, card sharks, men with cute little monkeys who charge money so that tourists can have a picture taken with the monkey. Lots of musical turns, many of them playing banjos, but in exactly the same way that they play an oud. The market square by night in the Place Jama El Fna is transformed as thousands of lights come on, lighting up hundreds of stalls, absolutely jam-packed with extraordinary foods and other delights. At some of the stalls you can sit down, order food and eat it in the open air, just like an open air restaurant.
It's not a real silk, it's cactus. Yeah.
We spent quite a while in the rug shop, drinking disgusting mint tea. Tourists are taught never to say no to the mint tea because it's a vital offering of friendship. And we were shown the lovely Berber goods he had for sale. We had to barter with the owner. He explained that he would not accept the price he first told us, even if we were willing to pay for it. One outstanding feature of visiting Marrakesh is the extraordinary range of beautiful tiles everywhere you go, some of them almost psychedelic. We stopped for coffee in the Place de Ferblantier, and Carol looked up at one point and shouted out, "My God, it's a stork!" Neither Carol or I had ever seen a wild stork before, so we gasped and rushed to get photos of it before it flew off from its huge wall-top nest. Later that afternoon, we were having coffee on the terrace of the Cozy Bar, and we counted no less than 33 storks along the ramparts. They're as common as pigeons in that part of Marrakesh, but we were still delighted. The Badi Palace is more or less a complete ruin, but the scale of the place is amazing, with its huge walls enclosing 6 massive sunken gardens. Virtually all of Monday, October 13th was taken up with a trip to the Atlas Mountains. Our guide, Hassan, was a Berber, and as such, he was not at all keen on Arabs. We asked him for the difference in character between Berbers and Arabs, and he said, "We smile." We soon left the main roads and took to the dirt tracks with our driver Mohammed performing miracles at the wheel, avoiding oncoming maniacs while never venturing too close to the sheer drops all along the way. Our first stop on this trip took us into the home of a Berber family. We were served tea by the family's 2 gorgeous daughters. These young women are quite stunning with their long, thick black hair, pouting lips and big eyes. Being teenagers, they were very embarrassed to have to sit and suffer our inane questions about their schooling and their daily lives, but the tea ceremony was fascinating. The sugar, I noted, came in huge rock-like chunks, one of which was dropped right into the teapot along with the tea leaves and the mint. Another stop on this journey was at the Berber Carpet Cooperative, where we were shown carpets as we had been already several days ago in Marrakesh. Nobody bought any, but Carol did get to sit with an old lady and try to operate the loom. We lunched in the Kasbah de l'Ourika. It was an excellent, if very tourist-orientated restaurant, set in a valley between mountain ranges, high up on a slope, overlooking a rocky river, and it had terraces with magnificent views down the valley. After we drove out of the valley back into the flat plains around Marrakesh, we stopped at a pottery where we saw a young man making pots. He explained that men made the pots, but women decorated them. We bought a small bowl and a couple of tiny tagines, which we hoped to use when making a Moroccan feast for some of our friends back home. Back in Marrakesh the following day, I took myself for a walk in the Bab du Kala. I wandered through narrow lanes full of children and donkeys, twisting and turning until I really had no idea where I was. Meanwhile, Carol was back in the riad, wondering when I'd be back for breakfast. At one point on my stroll, I passed through a massive decorated stone doorway with a sundial and a drinking fountain, and found myself inside a beautiful mosque.
Bonjour.
One of our most memorable meals was at Le Pavillon, a restaurant within walking distance of our riad, which gave us the chance to eat something other than tagines or couscous. The following day, our main outing took us to the Palais Bahia, which turned out to be by far the most beautiful and well preserved of the ancient palaces we'd seen. During a leisurely stroll through the souk, stopping to look at almost every market stall there and enjoy the exotic items that were on sale, from baskets to clothes to jewellery and all kinds of stuff, we were constantly assailed by waiters who were sent out from local restaurants as scouts to haul in customers. They have some fantastic patter such as, "Hello mate, I'm from Ipswich," and "We cook better than Jamie Oliver," "Lovely jubbly, happy birthday." On Sunday, October the 12th, we breakfasted in our riad with a Spanish couple and then set off for the Majorelle Gardens in the new part of Marrakesh. The garden was established in 1924 by the artist Jacques Majorelle, who became famous as the painter of Morocco. It was later bought by Yves Saint Laurent and given to the city as a gift. It's a lovely, tranquil sort of a place, not too big, but full of exotic palms and cacti, with several ponds containing fish, frogs and turtles. Much of the stonework in the garden is painted bright blue and yellow, making it an oddly vibrant environment. The garden also contains a museum of Moroccan arts, which features many of Majorelle's works, alongside examples of Islamic jewellery, clothing, wall hangings, exquisitely decorated curved knives, and much more. We enjoyed having a chat with a charming young woman, a museum guide, who was of Berber origins, and she explained why she prefers Berber art to Arabic art. Arabic art, she says, uses only a small number of themes, such as stars being the most obvious, while Berber art celebrates individual inspiration and variety. We returned to the Jardin Majorelle on Thursday the 16th of October 2008, our last day in Marrakesh. Getting out of Morocco took as long as getting in had done because of passport control again. But nevertheless, we flew home, happy after a delightful trip.